Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of LunarCRUSH Live. Today, we've got a really fun one. We've got Utsav Jaiswal, VP of Biz Dev and Blockchain Editor at Hackernoon coming in. So normally we got a lot of projects, cryptos. Today, we're going to be talking about news and editorial and media. Are you excited, John?
Always. When am I not excited?
We're always really excited, is like we like to say. Just a disclaimer, as we always do, we do not take payment for our live stream. We bring on cool, fun people and learn what they're working on in the crypto space and the blockchain space. Make sure if you want to ask some questions in the chat, we'll try to get to those and ask those to make a point of slamming that subscribe button, it says, to the YouTube channel to access future live streams. So slam that subscribe button. And with that, Utsav, what's up, my man?
Hello, guys. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you for being here, man. Appreciate that. I know where in the world are you? I know it's late there. Tell us where you're at. What's it like there outside of the brick wall and that looks like some sort of iMac plug-in behind you?
Right. So I am based out of India, and this is my place where I was born and brought up. And that's about it. That's the place where I am, and another 1.2 billion people.
Just you and a billion people.
Yeah,
love it. So I have a dad joke, or at least John says it's a dad joke in here. Why Hackernoon, the name Hackernoon, and not Hacker Midnight?
Oh, it's so easy. The goal, when David founded this organization, he was I wanna get the word from. What is it that hackers do when they wake up? And what is the time when you wake up? Is it midnight or is it noon?
I love that. So, yeah, they're up all night and then they're waking up at noon. Exactly. So it's what do they do when they wake up?
Exactly.
Does that include shadowy super hackers?
It includes shadowy super hackers, and the way that we work around it is it's always noon somewhere. So let's say that you get up at 11 a.m. It's noon 1 hour away from you, right? So it's always noon somewhere.
We were actually talking about this before you got on, John. But do you know how many time zones there are in the world?
I mean, I think my brain wants to say 24, but that's not true. I know that there's some zones that actually are on the half hour.
Yeah,
I guess 40.
40. I'm gonna go 26.
Very close. 20.
Are there only 20?
No, 30.
Oh, because 30. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. That seems really weird, right? 24 hours in a day, but 30 time zones. So, I mean, what could go wrong, right?
What could go wrong over time, right?
Well, so Utsav, tell us, so what is the mission at Hackernoon? And when you guys all get together and you're sourcing stories and you're doing all this, what do you guys go out with to get people excited? How do you kind of get that rallying cry, the team together? What is the mission over there?
Gotcha. So glad that you asked, because the mission that Hackernoon has, it permeates across different areas. So there is this social media aspect of things, which basically says power to the community and power to the people. There are no gatekeepers as such. So anything goes. There is that aspect of things, and then there is this aspect which says, hey, I'll only go with very high quality journalism. I want people to cross the T's and dot the I's and then get at least 5 different sources before somebody gets online. Let's call them the Wall Street Journals of the world, right? So Hackernoon straddles the world somewhere between that. So we try to get the best of both worlds. I'm so sorry. So how that works is that we allow anybody on the with an account to publish a story, and anybody can set up an account. So just go to hackernoon.com, click the sign up button, and you can now submit a story. Now, before a story gets published, there is a second pair of eyes, as David likes to call it, that needs to go over that story, review it in terms of readability, review it in terms of feedback, or what needs to get fixed. Once those things are put into the story, we ship it out the door, and that's how the system works with us. At times there will be multiple editors going over a single story, because there is no like singular way, because we live in such a world where there is no such thing as the only truth, right? So there are like multiple truths. And when we talk about emerging technologies such as cryptocurrencies, blockchain, AI, machine learning, like the road never ends. What might be true today is not true anymore. Let's talk about Ethereum. A couple of years ago, everybody was saying, hey, so Visa does more like, what do I say, transactions than you per second. How do you fix that? And then you hear stuff about like sharding or roll-ups or whatnot, which were not at least in vogue. Like maybe they were in Vitalik's head somewhere like back when he was like thinking about those things. But at that time, like maybe someone would have said, hey, so scalability is actually an issue on Ethereum. Today, people tend to at least take that with sprinkling of salt. They wouldn't take it as the gospel truth, if you know what I mean. So that's how the system works at Hackernoon. We try to like make sure that the information is correct to the best of our knowledge. We make sure that we make the headline in such a manner that the story like drives more views, but that does not mean that we go for that clickbait content. It's more about fixing the headline, getting the actual part of the headline towards the beginning of the headline, and so on and so forth. So that's like the gist of how stuff works at Hackernoon, and we are, I guess, the only place on the internet where you can publish your stories about like every emerging technology out there, as well as the ones that are already existing or like have existed for a very long time. So you'll see stuff about hardware, ROMs, ASICs, or whatnot. Like although ASICs are very new, but you will like hear stuff about hardware as well as like cutting edge software. It straddles the like entire spectrum, if I may.
I'm so curious on who your user is. Like, I know you've probably done so much work on identifying who they are and where they are, but you know, obviously there's people interested in the topics that are on Hackernoon all over the world. But are there any sort of trends that you see with certain types of individuals? You know, age groups, gender. What do they do for a job? Like, what kinds of interests do they have? Like, would love to know more.
Right. So I get this question from the sponsors a lot. And, right?
Yeah.
And the first two like are very self-explanatory, like sadly though, that the gender is like highly skewed towards a male side of things. Although Hackernoon is primarily female, my chief operating officer female, the managing editor female, the podcast host female, the editors, like 3 of them female. But yet, like the audience that Hackernoon has is like what you see in the general like STEM side of things. So hopefully we would be like helpful in changing some of that. And if I talk about the age, like again, obviously it's very heavily skewed towards the 26 to 49 like year old age group. Yep. Although we have about 1% of people who identify or at least are identified as Google Analytics as being over 65%, over 65 years of age. So about like 1% of Hackernoon is truly what you would call boomers.
Wow, only 1%.
That's big, right? That's big when you like look at a volume. We get about like 4 to 5 million people reading Hackernoon every month, right? That's the average. So 1% of that is pretty huge.
Yeah, no, and like you said, it's like that. You said STEM, and it's a younger generation, I think, that's interested in how things are changing very quickly, and that's just the demographic, and that's good to hear that. You know, because we see in the crypto space, it skews very male and it skews young, like 18 to 34, which puts John and I both well out of that range. So it's, you know, it's just interesting to see, you know, that's that range, but that's also the range that's living online and they're living through those stories. I found it interesting your take on headlines and adjusting those headlines, and how do you guys think about that? Because as someone that's out there, you know, we're disseminating data all day that's coming in, and, you know, we're looking at like what the trending headlines are across crypto at least. And it almost like it like gets you angry if you see a headline, you know, or just like, it's just like annoying to see a headline that is so aversely like skewed, or just, you can tell it's clickbaity. And it's like, I just will, it's like, I read it really quickly if it's from like a decent publication, but I'm just like, happens a lot around Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin's like stuff that's so like obtuse. It's like Bitcoin's killing the planet or something, you know? And it's just like, and then it goes down, and yeah, maybe it's a decent article or something, but it's like, you know, so how do you guys think about those? Because like inherently you're probably sacrificing clicks, but you're doing the right thing, right? Like how do you think about that?
Right. So this is something that I'm very passionate about, and I don't know whether people know about this or not. So I trained as a dentist. I had nothing to do with technology, right? In college was the time when like Bitcoin first came out. I got seduced by it. I was like, okay, I can clean teeth. I can clean teeth later, but let me go and find some Bitcoin, right? And then I never like went back to like that. I came on to like blockchain. So now, when I wanted to learn more about stuff, when Ethereum had just like come out, 2015, if I'm not wrong, 2016 was when Hackernoon had been founded. So from 2017 to 2019, at least, I was more of a Hackernoon reader, and I wasn't a part of the team, right? So I credit pretty much like 90% of what I know about blockchain and cryptocurrencies to Hackernoon. Some of the best articles, some of the best people. Like for example, if you want to learn about blockchain, the first thing that every crypto company out there who teaches their like people is the story called "What the fuck is blockchain?" WTF is blockchain. It's by this very nice writer who lives like very close to me. To be very honest, I did not know that back in the day, but that is like how people learned about blockchain. That was also me. So when I like joined Hacking, when I started to like work for these guys, even my goal was that the information like has to be something that adds value to a reader, right? I have been on both sides of the fence, like trying to get people to publish my pieces, as well as like on this side of fence, like saying, hey, so that story is silly, that cannot get published, right? So I have seen like both sides, and my take on this is that maybe that if a story adds value to the reader, and I think of myself as just one of the readers, if it adds value to the readers, then I might be able to give it some of a leeway in terms of like letting some promotional content be there at the bottom, because that is the trade-off that I want to have in terms of the story getting published. Now about the headline. When an editor at Hackernoon reads a story, they spend about 10 to 15 minutes going through the entire story, trying to fix it or whatnot. So that gives them, like, at the very minimum, a very good understanding of what the story is about. And then they take the decision to change it. Sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. Most of the times when we do that is when the change is very obvious. Like, for example, somebody would say, the most expensive 5 hotels in, or like whatever. Let's not say hotels, but like let's use the example, the most 5 used programming languages in 2021 or whatever. Like it becomes a very easy thing to change, right? You know that you move the number to the left. That is how Google works. But if there is a case where it is not quite apparent, or if it changes the meaning of the story, either the headline is left as it is, or we ask the author of the story whether they would be willing to change the headline that they had proposed, and they give them a few examples. Even after all of that, there are people in the world, some of them like the headlines that we give them. I get a lot of DMs saying, hey, thank you for like editing my headline, really added value to my story. But there is also a lot of hate mail that, who do you think you are, changing my headline? And I completely empathize with that group, because I am one of those people. If somebody changes even a small comma in my story, I take umbrage at the fact, like, okay, I removed that comma on purpose, or I headlined it as such. So over the years, there has come an equilibrium of sorts where some of the older authors, when they know that their headline might get changed, and if they want it, then they would DM me like beforehand, or they would DM the other editors like beforehand, saying, hey, so If you want to change the headline, go for it. Or if they don't, they would just say, hey, my headline is perfect, do not change it. And we accept their wishes, because at the end of the day, it is their story, it's not ours.
So someone will get out ahead of it and they'll DM you and be like, hey, Utsav, I'm really passionate about this headline, man. Can you just please leave it? And then a lot of times you'll say, that's fine.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
I've got so many questions for you. I don't know where to start, but I will say, like, so one of the things, well, I guess let me ask you the first question here. Like, what do you feel the role is of crypto specific media versus mainstream media? And we see it's interesting because we may collect more news than anyone, just based on how we collect news. But we're starting to see more mainstream media get deeper into crypto. And I guess I'm curious, what's your perspective on some of the crypto specific news sites versus, say, I don't know, Newsweek, or maybe you could even throw CNBC in that category. I mean, how do you look at the difference?
Right. So again, I'll speak from experience, right? So Hackernoon is neither a mainstream media, but the crypto-specific media treats us as a mainstream media, because we talk about the Python and JavaScript of the world. The mainstream media treats us as a crypto-specific media just because a third of our audience, or even more, reads about cryptocurrencies and blockchain, right? So at that junction where we sit, I very wholeheartedly believe that both of these sites get so many things wrong, and I don't envy their job, because it's very hard to get stuff right. The mainstream media talk to them about anything except the price of Bitcoin going up or down, because that is practically an empirical truth. The price is the price. Although I shouldn't call it empirical, because even the price of Bitcoin is different on different discovery mechanisms, right? So yeah, sorry for that faux pas. So the mainstream media gets everything else wrong. The crypto-specific media thinks that the Bitcoin adoption is just round the corner. You would have it by tomorrow and so on. The thing is that people like us, like you and I, we are so deep down the rabbit hole that we believe, of course, it should be adopted. Why not? But try asking your parents, why don't they use Bitcoin? Try asking your family friends who don't use Bitcoin. And that is why you tend to understand why what the mainstream media says about Bitcoin, even in their let's say, a very disparaging narrative, they still are speaking not to us, but to those who are not in this rabbit hole, to say.
So then let's get more specific. So two other questions, but so then where does Hackernoon fit in to the crypto specific media part of this? What do you see the difference in Hackernoon playing versus some of the more mainstream crypto news sites out there?
Oh, that's very easy. That's very easy, right? So basically, every other crypto media, what they do is they have a walled garden, right? I can name names, but there are so few that everybody knows the names. So they have a system of journalists. Some people can pay to get their way in. Some people can get in just because they had a good profile on ICO Bench. If people remember ICO Bench, I don't know, but that is how you get into those. And now these people become the protectors of that walled garden. So these become the arbiters of the truth. These people become the harbingers of the knowledge on the facts on, let's say, the Tether case, which is currently going on at the District Attorney's Court of New York, right? SDNY, Southern District, if I'm not wrong. So these people become the arbiters. So whatever comes out, whatever filters out, is just their own biases or their own analyses or their own, let's say, interpretations. On Hackernoon, anybody can write. So now if you are a lawyer and you talk about hey, okay, so these are the legal aspects or ramifications of what happens, you can write one. You don't have to wait at the walled garden's door. On Hackernoon, if you are a representative of some company or whatnot, you could speak directly. You just need to disclose your vested interest. That is something that Hackernoon does not budge on. It's hey, if you want to write a story, if it's promotional, we can look at it, but it needs to disclose their vested interest. Like that is rule number one at Hackernoon. And if you can do that, it's fine. So that's how we differentiate ourselves, just by making sure that it is the specialists, it is the people who are actually like, let's say, like to borrow a word from the corporate world, the subject matter experts. If these are the guys who submit stories, like, will that not add more value to what everybody else is like writing?
I love how you have to caveat the borrow from corporate world, because we do that all the time. We're like, no, this is a great descriptor, but we're not with them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I remember how you started this podcast. It was like, hey, it's free. And if somebody out there, and somebody is pitching you that I can get you on this podcast for a fee, please do not listen to them.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
We're hit with that. We're hit with that every day, and we have never paid a penny. Right. But there are thousands of people out there saying, I can get you on this major site. I'll write an article on you. All you got to do is pay me X. It's constant. It's constant.
It never ends.
Yeah.
I have people DMing us saying, hey, so your writer charged me X and Y amount of money and never wrote a story. So could you kindly refund that money to us? And we can only empathize at that point and say, hey, so here is how you can publish your story on Hackernoon. Click on the sign up button, set up your account and submit your story. And you paid $1,500 for that. Right. So I don't know, like, I don't want to like bash the people who paid that money, but like that's, I get like caveat emptor like comes into play, right? Buyer beware.
There's an element of people just can't. A lot of people are not good writers. And so I get hiring a writer. That makes sense. But I think it's the context in which these writers are approaching companies. They're not trying to help them. They're trying to make money. And so, and part of that's fine. Part of that's fine. Everyone needs to get paid. But I do think it's just that the context of it is a little bit strange in crypto. There's just so much of it. I do want to throw out a few numbers because it's something, and I'm not going to say which media sites these are for, but you know, over the last year, a couple of the more major crypto news sites out there covered 154 coins and 123 coins respectively, of which roughly 70% of their news articles were about Bitcoin and 15% were about Ethereum. Now, if we look at that on a daily basis, like today, there's almost 9,000 actively traded coins in the market today. So your most major news sites, again, covered 154 and 123 coins respectively over the last year. So given that,
the majority of them were just the top two.
Correct. Yeah. Like there's 15, less than 15%. And I didn't even get into Dogecoin, which is probably another 3 to 4% of that.
Right.
But I mean, given those numbers, we're talking about roughly, call it 10%, if that, is left for almost 9,000 coins, the news out there. And we pay a lot of attention to this. Like there are some coins that the crypto news and even mainstream news only cover when they get hacked. Not when they do anything good, but when something bad happens. And so I'd be curious, just, you know, do we have centralized crypto news that needs to become much more decentralized? Is that what you're getting at?
Great question.
I wouldn't even like go down that route. Like some of it is on these crypto coins themselves. How many crypto coins do you know that they call themselves the next Bitcoin? Just by doing that, they are promoting Bitcoin. Every time when they have to explain to their friends, so like, what do you do? Oh, I built something like Bitcoin, like Ethereum. So there is that one example, like side of things, where it is that copycat mentality that happens. Second, on these mainstream crypto websites, it is not the subject matter experts who write about this. These are journalists. Journalists are supposed to cover stuff and make it easily palatable for the wider audience. What word has the wider audience heard more? Is it like Bitcoin or is it Thorchain? They hear about Thorchain only when it gets hacked or only when the problem happens. But when everything is hunky-dory, the only coin rising is Bitcoin, or as these days you would say, Dogecoin. Now, moving to the other side of the argument that you brought up was is it like just on the crypto media or is it just on the people? I'd like to quote like Nicholas Nassim Taleb, who like the Bitcoin community hates these days because he is not a Bitcoin believer. But in his book, The Black Swan, what he said was that when the industry or the ecosystem is so nascent, the rewards are exponentially high. The rules are actually winner takes all. Bitcoin is the winner. When it was here in 2009, 8, 9, 10, like however old you wanna like call it, who else was there? Who else was there building it? So because they took those risks, they like get those maximum rewards out of it. The other coins came out in 2017, right? So they have to like fill in that gap first before they can get that. Do they have the number of developers that Bitcoin has behind it? Is their code as open? Although like arguments can be made whether Bitcoin is as open or not, but I don't want to like get into that. But what I want to say is that there is a road that you need to travel. There are the steps on the ladder that you need to climb. They expect too much too fast. The smaller coins, that it rubs off badly on all of us everywhere, which is why whenever I use the word shitcoin, like nobody else blinks an eye. We know what we are talking about.
Is that do you think that's a problem though? I mean, I think it's like, I have a question in here about, how has the landscape of writing changed, right? Since, 2010, and Hackernoon 2012, when you guys kind of started till now, but it's like, as the stories start to fill in from these other projects, and we realize that most of these things that are launched now, outside of kind of the smart contract like layers, are companies, right? And these are people behind that are trying to build something on this kind of new business model landscape. It's like, I almost just, it's like it's like, I'm just surprised that people like TechCrunch like completely ignore like all of these like DeFi. I mean, because it's like, these are just companies and they're the new tech companies. And so it's like, you have like old VC land, and these like old models, and then you have these kind of new models. And it's like, well, if I'm 25 years old and I'm about to start my first startup, like, am I just going to go raise a bunch of equity and give away 35% of my company? Or am I going to try this other thing that seems to be faster, bigger, stronger, like into the future? So it's like, how do we change that narrative from like shitcoin to just like startup?
Again, well, let me start with this question. Like,
It's a huge question.
Right? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I want to start with this. Like, what is the percentage in your own opinion? I wouldn't even say give me an informed opinion. Just give me your gut-based opinion. Okay, on this. What is the amount of cryptocurrencies out there out of those 20,000 ERC20 tokens that you see on like Etherscan? How many of them do you think are scams? And is that number over 50%?
Over 50?
Over 50.
I would say no, but I would say that just like startups, and 95 to 99% of them fail. 95 to 99% of these coins will fail. And there will be, most of the projects that exist today will not exist into the future, but there will be many, many more projects in the future than exist today.
Failure is okay. That's why I use the word scam, like against my
Right.
better judgment, is the word that I chose to use. Is that like if I speak to somebody apart from those who are in this business, that number might be as high as 90%. It's not their fault. It's not the token's fault. It's maybe the media. Like we gravitate towards what has been lost. Like let's say chain swap got hacked, 8 million people like went away with it. On the same weekend, any swap also got like any swap also got hacked, 6 million gone. The week before, BSC like projects were getting hacked left, right, and center. How does that work out? Like that is the news that people are picking up on. So
Yeah.
when that number in that person's head, or at least that private equity person's head who built his money the old-fashioned way and stuff like that, he doesn't know about making millions in 20 minutes or 30 minutes. He is gonna be very conscious, or rather cautious.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I do think that like a traditional VC, when they invest in a startup, they know that, there's a 93% chance that that money is just going to zero. But they're, as long as that company that they invested in gives the best, gives a college try, gives the best effort that they can
Exactly.
to try and make it successful. It's, it doesn't matter what necessarily, like, these are young people that might not have as much coaching like as a traditional VC would give them around budgeting and what to spend money on and hiring and all of these things. So the probability of failure goes up. But I would be interested to know, and it's like, I don't know if we can ever even get this data of all of those projects. Like the word scam cannot be used for someone that tried really hard. The word scam could be used for marketing wallet dump, right? Like rug pull for sure. Like that, but it's like, it would be interesting to know how many of these things, because I mean, there's still projects that I put money into in like 2017, and I don't even, God knows where that wallet is and like where it is or whatever, but it's like lost. But I still follow the project, and I'm like, dang, these people are still building, and this is like now 3 or 4 years later, 3.5 years later, and they're still trying, and they've got a little bit of money left. I'm like, that's not a scam. But some people are like, oh yeah, I bought that went to zero, that's a scam. It's like, no, they're literally still building.
Yeah, that isn't a scam.
Right.
If they are still building, it isn't a scam. Like I still remember I bought Stellar. Like so yeah, these people are not scams.
It's an interest. I love this conversation. I'm thinking, Joe, like we went to Techstars, and we got into Techstars, and hundreds to thousands of companies did not get into Techstars. And can you imagine of the 10 that got in, that when we went, if any of them just wasn't making money, can you imagine if the mentors are walking around going, oh, you're a scam because you're not making money. Oh, you're a scam. You're a scam. You have not enough users. You're a scam. And also you're a scam because you're not making $1 million a month yet.
Yes.
Like that's crypto right now. Like that's what's actually kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
That's what I just want to do, is like delineate like innovation and like people that are trying versus like ruggling. Cause yes, like I don't necessarily know if, all of the BSC tokens that are coming out that have, decimal points to the, quadrillionth are like going to change the world. But like how many of those are actually trying really hard to build something? And maybe this different model of like what's happening with Doge, it's like if Doge has billions of dollars under management of some sort, and they can turn that into something different and new and innovate on it, is that a scam? Or is that like, what if Doge all of a sudden just all of the developers pivoted and now they're just like solving like some sort of climate crisis? Is everyone going to be like, well, shit? It's like you just don't know until it's over, I guess. I don't know. It's a weird dynamic.
So does Doge have like developers? I heard this somewhere here or there. Like Elon said that spoke to Doge developers, and the Bitcoiners was like, Doge hasn't had any developers since 2017. So what are you smoking? So I don't know how that goes.
I mean, I could say maybe there's people that have made a lot of money on it, and now they've created something new. And like I'm sure there's a 18-year-old out there that can start a VC fund that's bigger than most of the VC funds in the country based on what they've made off Doge, and can start to innovate. So it's like, is that a bad thing, or is someone else just pissed that that's not them?
It's a very good thing. Like, see, the difference between a startup and a crypto project comes mostly because of the involvement of money. If there was no like money, or rather like, let's say, the community's money involved, if there was no like concept of a token or whatnot, maybe the questions of scams would be a bit different. Think of how many friendships have been ruined just because somebody borrowed $100 from a friend but did not return it back, right? It leaves a bad feeling. Now remove that 100 million, replace that with 10 million or 100 million. And these are like what you would call projected incomes. And that like sours, like that's how humans work, I guess. Like it sours emotions as soon as you bring money into the mix. There are so many, like, I don't know whether you follow this guy called CoffeeZilla on like YouTube or whatnot. He did this huge expose on this thing called the Save the Token thing. And it had pretty much the people from the Face Clan in there. I don't know who Face Clan is because I'm too old for it, but a lot of people do. He has like millions of followers on Twitch. People like Aiden Ross, who like, again, some people on like TikTok or whatever. So people with millions of following, like their blockchain wallet showed that they purchased those tokens, or rather were given those tokens at those pre-sale prices or whatnot, and then they just dumped it. The name of that token was called Save the Token. They were gonna give it to kids, but everybody cashed out just like that. Kim Kardashian was found like shilling some cryptocurrency. All of these guys are like doing it. So when you see all of these things happening, how difficult is it for the normal person to believe that every crypto is now a scam? Imagine when there is a case of a domestic violence, every man becomes a dog. Or if it's a case where a woman acted not in the best manner, all women are like X's or Y's or whatnot. Now think about money where everyone is involved. It's more of a public perception thing.
You know what? One of the interesting things, and I'll be really excited to see how this plays out in the coming years. I mean, we're seeing actual celebrities who have built an actual brand over time that are getting into crypto now, and they're exploring, they're playing around. They don't know a lot yet, but they're experimenting and they're figuring it out. Like, for example, I saw, I've been seeing a few Busta Rhymes tweets lately about Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I saw yesterday. Now he's doing some live show and they're dropping NFTs. No, I'm not promoting Busta Rhymes, but I do think it's cool that he's in crypto. I like it.
Are you a Busta Rhymes social token holder, John? You have to disclose.
No, but I did go to a Busta Rhymes concert a long time ago. He was playing with Lauryn Hill back in the day. It was awesome. But it's cool that these people are getting in. I saw Post Malone did something with another project a while ago it was something to do with NFTs, and it was like access to a show or something like that. But it's like, these are actual individuals who built an actual brand, and they're exploring a different opportunity to not only make money, but a new business model. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, it seems just like, it's like we've got all these people that have been in crypto for a while that are like, you can almost categorize them, Bitcoin maximalists. Then there's Ethereum maximalists that loves to say that Ethereum is going to overtake Bitcoin on a daily basis. There's this war battle back and forth. There's Bitcoiners that say everything else is shit. There's a lot of fights on Twitter. We see it all day long. We see it in our own posts. There's the meme tokens where if we even post about it, happened again yesterday. It was fun. We'll post about a meme token just because there's something going on with an insight that we just see, an unbiased insight. Hey, this is going off today. Wow. You get 800 comments back with memes. And links and like tagging, CZ and Elon Musk in every post. And it's crazy. Mm-hmm. So we've got these buckets that have been created, but I see these celebrities coming in with actual brands, and they got a lot at risk. They got a lot to lose. If you're a celebrity who's built a brand, and this goes wrong for you, you do an NFT that no one wants, or you scam people. So we get to past this point of like, oh, it's all a scam. It doesn't work. And none of these celebrities, I can tell you, they're not dropping an NFT using Bitcoin. They're just not. I mean, it's very, very few, and there's very few ways to even do that. So it's early days for that. So it's just an interesting thing. I don't know. I'm curious what your thoughts are on the community itself and how it breaks down, and how you think it's going to evolve.
Like, I was reading this Hackernoon story about this NFT called Stoner Cats. There is a story about hash masks, which is by people who are like building masks and selling them as NFTs just on Ethereum, right? Both of these cases just on Ethereum. But when I look at the other celebrities, like I see them like coming up with different names, not primarily Ethereum, like obviously something else. And I'm pretty sure that somebody somewhere got paid. That could just be the cynic in me, or it could be that these guys are actually exploring what is the next like moonshot for these guys, because they have a lot of money lying around. Maybe I don't understand how like big that pile of money is that they have, but everybody is pretty much jumping into crypto, or rather NFTs these days. Like, name a star and you will see that they have like somebody on the other in NFTs. 20-year-old YouTubers like holding bags of NFTs. I don't know how that works out, but that's what they have. And based on like some of these forensic analyses that some people did, what I am hearing at least is that they tend to dump it as soon as it is listed. It's as if these influencers are just playing an acting role. Their role is that of an ambassador up until the point of listing. A lot of things go back and forth, or rather, they happen behind closed doors or whatnot. Is again like just hearsay. I would not put any value behind it, but it's not very hard to fathom how that happens. So when that happens, like the role of the influencers probably could have been around influencing people to understand about cryptocurrency. The country where I live, crypto is not legal, but it's not illegal either. And I see all of these cryptocurrency exchanges. One of them is owned by Binance. So they hire all of these actors and actresses, and they go on their Instagram reels or lives or whatever is it that these kids use. And they say stuff like, hey, so I found this new opportunity called Bitcoin. Opportunity called Bitcoin. And would you like to buy it? To do that, download this app and use that and pay your money and get that. Is there a financial disclosure? No. Is there a caveat emptor? No. These are just followers who will do what their celebrity says. Like these celebrities are basically passing on their risks, in my opinion, to their own audience. They are like their audience is already monetized. That's true. Nobody has a problem with that. But when you start to pass on your risk to your audience, is like I guess where a line should have been drawn. But at this point of time, nobody cares.
That's a great point. Yeah, really. It's interesting too, and this is actually one of the reasons why we created LunarCRUSH in a sense, where exactly. and why we track influencers. Like it's one thing to hire someone and say, hey, I'm X exchange. I want to hire these influencers for the next month to promote X new product, and it's another thing to see kind of this constant uptick over years. This constant, for example, if you looked at Ethereum, and you looked at Ethereum's number of individual social contributors every day, Ethereum didn't launch an influencer campaign. Right. It's this ongoing evolution that you should look at over time. It's not about the next candle. It's about, is this community growing over time versus likes. There's some coins that you have less and less people talking about it over time, or you have a spike because their marketing team went crazy and had $1 million budget. That's not building value. Yeah. So interesting.
Totally, I would like to add over here that
go for it.
I really love LunarCRUSH crypto, like what you guys have done. The dashboard is amazing. Like forget the amazing UI. Like I really enjoy the fact that there is so many like levers that I can move to really like research into a coin that I want to like research about. Earlier, it was mostly about, hey, so do they have a good team? Is the tokenomics okay? Today, everybody knows it's about this sentiment. And if I want to get the sentiments, I'm checking you guys out. Like great work on that, guys. Really enjoy.
All right, I'm putting my product hat on. What would you like to see? What would you like to see on LunarCRUSH coming up?
Right. So when I was looking at it today, I basically could see the sentiment meter being over there, which could tell whether it was bullish or not bullish. Maybe if there was some other like centimeter. Okay, that's a nice word, centimeter over there. Centimeter. Do you guys know what a centimeter is?
Like the measure a centimeter?
Are you not American if you know
centimeters? Oh no, yeah, no. America's ridiculous. We still grew up with the rulers. Like it's all good. We use imperial, whatever. Don't worry about it.
We've also got miles per hour. Come on.
Couldn't resist. So basically, what I was gonna get at was if there could be just right next to the green one, if there could be something that was maybe a red colored one, which could like capture the sentiment around what is the number of negative news that I get. The positive and negative, like you are weighing it anyway. Is there a sentiment analysis tracker for just a negative news? Like that just is negative. Something that I would love it.
Yeah, and you know what I like that a lot actually, because what's also fun about that. I mean, one of the main ways we also look at news. I mean, we've gone in and classified hundreds and hundreds of news sites that are out there, and tried to remove like spam sites, block explorers, all these other things that aren't news. And what we do is we actually look for shared links in every social post that we collect. Like any link in it, we follow it. And we can understand the sentiment. We can understand the post sentiment and the link sentiment, what coins it's about, where it came from. And so there could be a lot that we could do there, even to be able to personalize that for you. Maybe you want your feed to be all negative stuff.
Maybe that's your
versus
signal.
positive. Yeah. It's true.
I get it. Like
it is a great signal. Negative news is actually a fantastic signal. So is spam. If you look at the number of spam posts for a coin, you have to ask yourself, why is there an increase in spam? But no, that doesn't automatically happen. There's a concerted effort to make more spam. So it's something interesting to look at. But I mean, look, you look at a lot of like news is created. I mean, one of the examples that was in my head was the one that I saw and there was actually a lot of tweets about it too, was there's a project called Paid Network. And Paid Network was covered by the major crypto outlets when it was hacked. And then it soared because it turns out they fixed it. Then it soared. And so to get that news, we just saw, again, same thing with Thorchain, right? You might think this guy is falling on Thorchain. It's been soaring the last week and a half.
It has been raising, yeah.
Right. So that's a good one. I like that. It's cool.
I think we've got the data. We just got to visualize it.
Yeah.
You said something super interesting while you were talking, which is like the most crypto thing ever earlier, where you said, you go, well, crypto's not legal in my country, but it's also not illegal. And then you just kind of like passed through it. But it was like, that's such an interesting, it's like just crypto in a nutshell, right? It's like, it's not legal, but it's definitely not illegal. It's like, it's the most ambiguous and gray. But I do want to ask kind of a fun question. About Hackernoon and like some of the things that you've seen. Has there ever been a time where there was a story that got published or that was just like wrong and like you knew it was wrong or like something was bad about it or you got like a ton of backlash or something? Like how does that happen? Like tell us about like a moment when that happened.
Right. So a story like the Hackernoon editors getting it wrong is very hard because like as I said, we are a very small team. Almost everybody is very passionate about Hackernoon. So let's say that somebody publishes a story and the other editor finds out something. That is the point when we fix the story. Just out of the gate, it might not have led to a case where we might have gotten a ton of backlash over things. Yes, there have been faux pas here and there, definitely. But if my definition of a ton of backlash is 10 or more replies or retweets on that, no. What we have had is bugs. As a software development company, you guys know about it as well as Medium. So when we stopped using Medium as our CMS, we practically built our own, right? So when we built our own, our integration with GitHub wasn't the best. So what was happening was every time there was a GitHub gist embedded in the story, instead of the piece of code, that person's profile picture would show up. Right? So the most backlash that we ever got, and I'm being very honest and candid about that, no marketing or sales pitch over here, is that when we that was the most amount of backlash that we got. And it wasn't even directed at us. It was at the person who wrote the story. So we would go on to Twitter and see somebody saying, hey, so I was reading X's story. And instead of pieces of code, it was just his face. They were like, what the fuck, man? I mean, don't you want to share your code or whatnot? And then we had to step in and apologize on their behalf because they were taking the heat on our behalf. That has been our most, let's say, embarrassing moment ever.
I like it. No, I appreciate
we were able to fix that. So
yeah, no, everyone has bugs and builds, it's all about fixing it. So appreciate that. And then so our friend Nicholas introduced us and put this together. Thank you, Nicholas, if you're listening. And he's a he's posting stories on Hackernoon, and you guys are editing it, and you said he even won some contests. How do people get started, and how do they start posting stories? How do they get stories approved? Like, what's like your advice to someone that's like, I want to start posting stories on Hackernoon?
So first step, do not reply to emails which reach out to you saying, hey, for $1,500, we'll get you published on Hackernoon. Right? Visit hackernoon.com. On the top right is a button which says start writing. Click on start writing if you want to start writing. Then again, after you have set up your account, there's a button on the top right which says start new draft. Click on that start new draft button. And then when you are done, like write your story. It is now we have what is called a markdown editor. Developers love it. I'm more on the VCVIC side of things, but who can argue with developers? So now use the editor, add your story. Once you are done, click the submit story for review button. Once you do that, within 2 to 3 days, a Hackernoon editor will pick up your story, review it, make it more readable, because some people like to, just an example, some people like to write in really long paragraphs, but the internet is designed in a way where we skim things and it needs to be shorter paragraphs. So they would fix things like that, fix the grammar, fix the readability, fix the headline. If there needs to be more formattings, they do that. Maybe add some backlinks if they are needed. And that's pretty much it. Like, your story is live on Hackernoon without any bias or malice. There is no system where, let's say, if a story is about a particular category or if it's by a particular person, then only will the story rank on the first page.
Gotcha.
Every story has an equal chance, and there is no money on earth that can buy the spot on the top of the Hackernoon page.
And is there some sort of rev share or kind of reciprocity for someone that's posting and gets a lot of clicks or gets a lot of attention? Like, how does that work?
So we have consciously taken the decision to not go after those clicks or those impressions, because these can be gamed. We have all seen those stories with 1 million claps, right? So what we have is a partnership with this company called Coil, built by Interledger. These are the guys who were behind the Ripple blockchain. So there is a mechanism by which, if it is a Coil subscriber, these people can get payments streamed to them if they add their own payment pointer into it. We are also trying to find ways. We have these meetings every week to how to better monetize the Hackernoon author, where about 18 to 25,000 of them exist regularly. The problem that we face is, what is the quantum of money that you give a person for their writings? Because some of the stories that you read on Hackernoon easily worth more than $3,000 to $5,000, and I say that as a writer myself. Such amazing analyses, amazing introductions, amazing summaries, or whatnot. So how do you tell that person that his story is worth, let's say, just $50, because the community does not seem to understand it? Is Vitalik's blog monetized? No. It has this license called a WTFPN, which actually just says do whatever the fuck you want to do with that story. So he says distribute it, but nobody, or at least not the wider audience, is reading it. So do we want the people to get into the race of clicks or whatnot, which is where all of those clickbaits lie? Or do we consciously say, hey man, you are never gonna get paid for your story, and that's the end of it? Then why should they choose to publish at Hackernoon? Just because of our awesome distribution channel? That, I don't think cuts it. So we have these conversations almost on a weekly basis as to how we can better monetize the authors, or rather, okay, I use the word wrong. I don't want to say I want to monetize the writers, but what I want to say is, how can we find a way by which the people writing on Hackernoon can monetize the content that they have? We have had some conversations, and again, sharing that very candidly, is we have looked at ways by which whether a story could become an NFT of sorts, where there could be some revenue that goes over there. So yeah, hopefully we will have an answer for that very soon. But that's a very candid thing from our side is that we haven't been able to find that right fit where we are not monetizing content mill type of a content creation, and we are not trying to discourage people from writing awesome stories. Because if a person writing awesome stories sees, hey, but the story getting clicks is, let's say, Kim Kardashian's 5 different like dress roles or whatnot, they would not write the story about shard chains. And we have all seen what happened to CCN, right? It used to be one of the paragons back in the day. Have you guys checked that out?
I've not. I think you got John's gears grinding, thinking about how to monetize these writers, is what I think he's about to say.
Oh no, I could think of lots of ways, but I congratulate you guys for just thinking about new models. I mean, it's also another interesting fact that almost all of the current existing media outlets across the whole world are dependent on advertising, and like, you know, it's interesting, like that impacts everything: the quality of content, the bias, the things they don't say. You know, so I think it's just really, and this is maybe the most interesting time in history in the media space when you look at it from a business model perspective, and you start to layer in NFTs, access, tokens, all these different things. You know, keep it going, keep thinking, please.
Most definitely. And at this end, like, I would like to add that maybe like you guys have a solution for that, is that, okay, it's always gonna be noisy. Let's make a sentiment tracker for these things, right? Let's see like who has a better sentiment, and we could rank that. There are so many like moving parts that you guys have built into a system, and hopefully like that is the way forward, because long form content in the way that we see everywhere is probably like what you would say preferred by a very niche audience these days, and everybody wants the what do I say, that kind of a news right away. Like, give me the bullet points right now. Give me the summary right now. So yeah, hopefully, like somewhere there will be a balance.
Yeah, and it's something that we think about all the time, and some of the stuff that we see, and like we were talking about at the beginning with headlines, with, you know, how do you tell whether or not a story is impactful, right? How did what you posted out to the world, you know, was it impactful in a way? Did it get the right type of engagement? Did it get picked up by some kind of bot farm somewhere? Like, how did, you know, was there any engagement back with you, and did you spur some sort of other story? And so it like looking at the market and looking at the way that people are talking in real time is kind of the only way to do that. And so looking at the crypto market, which is just everything, it's just global, it's 24/7. People are online talking, they're talking all over the place, and there's tons of corners of the internet that we can't get to or we won't cover. But is it impactful if it's not seen by a broader audience? But I think that, and maybe we'll have to talk offline a little bit, but there's definitely ways, you know, and it's like you got my gears turning a little bit with because I mean, John, even before we started LunarCRUSH, I mean, I remember back in 2015, or I don't even know when it was, and we just thought about, I remember you saying this, I think we were on like the pier in Huntington Beach or something, and you were saying, imagine while you're scrolling, like you're getting charged like microcents, right? And like, or like as you're watching a Netflix show, you're just getting charged microcents for like just what you're watching. But it's like, think about how that's not possible today. It's like, what are you guys going to charge someone, you know, 4 cents and then $84 in gas fees every time they scroll, right? Or so there's some things that just we're not there yet, but I think the entire market is working towards getting there to where, and think about all these artists and all these other people that they wouldn't have to get these crazy ad things and push out products that maybe they didn't like, when they can just monetize across it. It's the adage, the old one of like, well, if everyone in the world gave me a dollar, I'd be a billionaire.
Exactly.
Well, if everyone in the world gave you 0.0000001, you might still be a multimillionaire, right? And so it's giving a voice back to these artists, which is interesting. And like you guys, like you're saying, thinking every week and meeting on it, because you're on the cusp of something big there.
It is. Look, I mean, I want to add one more point to what you just said, and that's the quality of the content. I'm sorry, but like writing an article this long about the fact that Elon Musk just tweeted a dog, just so you can sell ads for Nescafe on your webpage, is not good content. It is not news. And I'll tell you what's insane is like there has been times when we track all these news sites, and there are times we can tell you like who is which. Let's say Elon tweets, and 37 news outlets cover the fact that Elon just tweeted. Like, for starters, why don't I just need to go to Twitter for that? Like, what, really? I need your POV on Elon's tweet? I don't. And so, but like,
most of the times.
but like, then we track like which one got the most clicks out of the 37. This one was the most shared, right? And then it's like you look into it, and it's like, oh wow, that was for example, that was a tweet that was from a crypto news site that got distributed to another site onto Yahoo Finance, distributed again, and it's the same Elon tweet pushed in all these places again, also that they can sell banner ads. And so
exactly.
I don't get it.
And this is also where we also like digress a bit, right? So as like you have used the word impactful, right? The word which I used was adds value to the readers. So when I see like a story on my submissions plate about Elon's tweet on Dogecoin or Baby Floki or whatever, for me as an editor and a fanatic blockchain fan, like, does it add value to me? And my simple rule is, did I learn something new after spending my 15 minutes on this story? If the answer is no, the story is 99% gonna get rejected. It's as simple as that. I think of myself as the lowest common denominator of sorts, which like sees whether it adds value to me. If it doesn't add value to me, how will it add value to the wider audience that is like still looking for more content at a place like that? And there is the flip side of that as well. If I let content such as Elon's tweet on Dogecoin on Hackernoon, what message will it sell the more serious like writers? Should he also start writing about Elon's tweet? Or should he continue to like write about that? So I want to focus on that guy who is going to write serious content pieces. That's about it.
I love it. Yeah. And even if you look at CNBC, or you look at, I mean, even during like, there was a lot of political stuff going on here, like if you didn't know, in the US in 2020, but it was just, yeah, I know, being a little facetious there, but it's like they were just taking a tweet and posting it, and then they would just talk about it, or they'd bring in a subject matter expert and they would talk about the tweet. And it was just like, this is news. The tweet's like 3 hours old. So the news already happened, and you're just now taking that distribution that you have because you've been around for longer and pushing it out there. But if that audience and that subset of the people, like we talked about at the beginning, the older generation was just listening to these other mediums, they would have already seen it and hopefully got the story from the person that, you know, made the commentary early on. And so you can just see the shift changing in this world. And I like how distributed you guys are with the writers, because like John was saying, we see some writer somewhere will grab a tweet, post the tweet up, make like one paragraph, and then that gets a headline on one of the larger publications. And it's like, that's just not a story, right? Like that's just not a story. So
the story is 6 banner ads on the page. 6 banner ads. That's your story. And subscribe. Don't forget to pay them $10 a month for their premium service.
I so hate these companies which are like, pay me $10 to learn. Like, I was in college when I started to learn. I didn't have $10. I'm in India, right? How do I learn? Of course, I'm gonna like find a way to go to incognito mode and read.
Exactly.
But you understand where I'm coming from, right? So all of these paywalls, these gatekeepers, and then their advertisement money. So they're like, they never have the interest of the reader at mind. I had a friend in the newspaper agency who were actually printing newspapers, and he told me was that when the newspapers on those like things that they use to print those newspapers, the first things to get printed are the ads. Then on whatever space is left is where the news goes.
It's such a great lesson.
What's it called? A newspaper.
Yeah.
It should be an ad paper, which also has some news.
Yeah. And it's not actually like their fault. It's like that was the way in which you had to keep the business moving. Right. And like, you know, like the more we kind of talk about this space and the more we get into it, you start to realize that it's the business model needs to change first, right? And then all of these other things follow it, right? Like we talk about identity a lot, you know, and like doxing yourself in crypto. It's like, well, you know, people, they don't want to give their identity, but they have to, because if I'm signing up for a service, I have to give my credit card number. So I'm basically like giving my private key to someone, right? Then I have to put my full name. I have to put my address in there. And I don't know what system that's going into. And right, that's why it's like, I think a lot of people end up loving to buy off places like Amazon because they've already been doxed there. And so they're like, I'm just going to buy it there because I don't want to have to put in all my information to another system. And so, but the business model needs to change, right? If there's different ways for these companies to make money, then there's different ways that, you know, the people will have to interact with it. So we're getting there. We're coming up on time here, man. I have two more questions, or one more main one. So we had, and this is like, you have to give us a prediction. So we had the China FUD in the space. Then it looks like we have like some like regulation FUD, which is always there. But like come December 2021, what's like the headline, the non-clickbaity headline that's happening in the crypto space in December of 2021?
2021, like first I'd like to comment on the China FUD and the regulation FUD. But there was this very wonderful like Telegram forward that I got. So it was this message which says, a message from the government: we will ban your crypto just as we banned prostitution, drugs, and whatnot. So I was like, yes, that's what I like. Now coming to the headline part of the thing, right? So if it's gonna be crypto related, it's probably gonna be somewhere around about Ethereum's like impact on hard forks, like coming into the actual play. It's gonna like come out really soon, but the impact of that, because of its decentralized nature, is probably gonna be felt by the end of the year. In 2017, when we first heard about when the Bitcoin actually started falling, like 2018 New Year, everyone thought it was because of the Chinese New Year or whatnot. But I guess when this New Year like comes about, it probably, like in my personal opinion, would be around the Bitcoin prices like back to where it like should have been, closer to the 100,000. Those laser eyes were not in vain. I'm pretty sure that they are gonna be back in full force. Ethereum is like definitely gonna be somewhere closer to the 10,000s, if not like higher. But that is like my prediction for the end of the year.
Wow.
I love this question, Joe. This is a great question. We should always ask this question. You know, and I say that because it makes you think about, if you think out 6 months, you have to be looking at things being built now.
Right.
And so for it to be a headline, then there's some element of like, you could look back on it and go, oh yeah, well, that's because of, well, the Ethereum hard fork, or like, so it's a good question.
Yeah. It's kind of like where you couldn't even really assess DeFi summer until like DeFi was over. You know, it's like you kind of knew you were in it, but like everyone's just like, what's the next thing? Everyone's going so crazy that there's no story yet. It's just like, holy shit, all this stuff is happening, versus like breaking it down. So I like that. All right, man. Well, where obviously where can people find you? Where do people go? What would you like to leave us with today?
Definitely. So we'd like to like let people know that if you have a tech story, to like submit it to Hackernoon. If there is like some way or like some prompts or some feedback that you would want from us, our team is very accessible. We try to reply to pretty much every message on Twitter, Telegram, Instagram, or whatnot. I don't like Instagram, but the rest of the team does. So yes, there will be somebody over there replying to your questions or whatnot. And definitely like looking forward to seeing you guys on the internet.
Cool. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Congrats with all the success. Let us know any way we can help. We'll chat with you backstage. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. This will be on YouTube probably tomorrow. It's live right now, but it does take a day. And then we'll pop it into all of our podcasts and everything in the audio format here in the next week or so. Thank you all. And John, as always, man, this is great.